Yeah, again, thanks everybody for joining. We're going to be running through, well, Adrian's going to be running through some of their workflows that they have over at WD Manor and how they connect that to Stratus and Revizto. Couple of housekeeping stuff. We just do this every time we have a webinar. It's going to be recorded. You'll get a link. Should be out tomorrow for the recording. So if you guys need to dig back in, you'll have that available to you. If somebody wasn't able to attend, you can send them to our website. They can fill out a form and get access to the webinar there as well. Um, anything you guys have for questions for the end? We're reserving a few minutes there at the end for Q&A. So there should be a Q&A box down at the bottom for you guys to ask questions. We are going to have two polls that pop up. They'll only be available for 30, 40 seconds, um, just to keep the webinar rolling. But as they pop up, please try to answer those as fast as you can. And then again, you can follow Revisto specifically at revisto.com on LinkedIn. And then Nathan, what is the handle on LinkedIn for Stratus?
Stratus.build.
Stratus.build. Okay. So that's how you can reach out to Revisto or follow us and Stratus as well. All right, so introductions. Hi, everyone. I'm Corey, Classen for what it's worth. I am an electrician by trade. I come out of the field, worked in VDC as well for a number of years. I've been at Revisto now 4.5, that's incorrect, 4.5 years. Um, I've done speaking and educating, and I really, my passion and why I do this every day is I really do want to bridge the gap between the generations of people and the technology out in the field specifically. So, what our modelers and BIM and VDC teams spend months and weeks and all kinds of time providing, that the field team actually gets value out of what they're producing. So that's enough about me.
Hi, I'm Nathan Bargas. I have been a customer success manager with Stratus for the last few years, specifically working with Adrian's team at WD Manor, kind of helping to facilitate their fabrication workflows through all of their projects with Stratus. I've been in the VDC kind of area for a while. That's kind of where my background kind of came from before I moved my way over here.
Hello, everybody. My name is Adrian. Appreciate it. You guys taking the time. Air Force veteran, out of high school. I got over 20 years experience in the industry for a plumber pipe fitter. And around 2019 or so, we were doing a lot of heavy modeling, a lot of heavy fabrication, and we were having some issues. So I removed myself from the field and got in here, and then just started to learn this side of things, right, the technology side, and then we've obviously changed a lot since 2019 to now. We're going to go over some of that today. So, pleasure.
All right, so now we have the first poll. Thank you everyone for participating. Corey, Adrian, Nathan, you can see the results, right? Can see the numbers? Awesome. So far we have
Numbers.
mechanical and plumbing. I'm gonna share the results. Thank you everyone for participating. There are the results. And what do you guys think about it? We have a lot of mechanicals,
Oh yeah,
plumbing.
got a couple
Yeah,
Sparkies though. Let's go.
yeah, you got a good mix. Three Sparkies.
Awesome. Thank you everyone for participating. You can move on.
Yeah, so just real quick about Revisto. I'm sure most people are familiar, but our mission here is change how collaboration happens in the AECO industry to help teams deliver complex projects on time, on budget, and then trying to minimize risk and waste as much as possible. Uh, we're founded in 2012. We are headquarters in Switzerland, 250 employees. We're running 80,000 projects worldwide. That's enough. You can see it for yourself there. Yeah. So, and then for subcontractors specifically, execute with certainty at every stage, right? That's what we're hoping for during the whole life cycle of a project, from uh, design all the way through handover.
And I'll talk a little bit about Stratus here. Um, So we often find that MEP contractors face a really critical gap between BIM coordination and the Fab Shop. A model gets coordinated, clashes get resolved, sign off happens, and then that information has to travel downstream to the people doing cutting and fabricating. That translation a lot of times is where things kind of break down. Rework starts to happen. The shop in the field might encounter conditions that the model didn't anticipate or tell them. And all that just starts to result in a lot of change orders. A lot of things have to get redone. Where Revizto and Stratus kind of sit, they each own kind of a unique half of the MEP construction lifecycle. Revizto focuses a lot on things upstream before that model is released, coordination, clash detection, issue tracking, and Stratus handles everything kind of downstream from when that model is released. Model breakout, fabrication, delivery, field installation. And so together they really help close that gap there, where Revizto answers, is the model right? Stratus answers, are we building it right? Is it on time? Is it in sequence? After that BIM model is pushed up to Stratus, and Adrian, if you want to pop over to the next slide. After that BIM model is pushed up to Stratus, Stratus takes it immediately from that point and starts to track how that model is going to be broken out for fabrication. So every work package that you make, every spool, every part in connection, it's going to run that against your desired milestones to track against. And this gives shop managers, foremen, field crews that are using Stratus real-time visibility into every step where something is along the way. And so the results of a Stratus Revizto workflow is that there's going to be fewer RFIs and change orders because modeling issues are resolved on the Revizto side before fabrication and they never reach the shop or the field. Faster installation on the field side because what's coming out of Stratus is coordinated, it's tracked, it's labeled, it's ready to install as soon as it arrives on site. And for both, it gives full accountability because of the tracking logs, the status tracking logs that Stratus provides, plus the issue logs that Revizto has, really gives a full, complete project record that's easily able to be looked at. So where Revizto ensures that the model is right, Stratus ensures that the model gets built correctly. And the handoff between them is really that moment where design intent becomes construction reality. So for fabricators who are looking to reduce work, improve predictability and efficiency, build and fabricate with greater confidence, the combination of these two platforms really offers something that the industry has needed for a long time, which is a connected, traceable workflow that runs from the first clash detected in coordination to the last spool installed in the field.
Well said, well said. WD Manor Mechanical. We've been around since 1945. We are family owned. We are signatory on our mechanical piping and plumbing side, and then non on our dry duct side. Our primary market is healthcare. We do a lot of hospitals. We do design, build, and assist, IPD, big room type projects. That's what kind of pushed us into this lane of BIM BDC. And then to, create efficiencies within these projects, there was a lot of kind of redundancy between working with the engineer and taking it over and kind of clash coordinating and such. And we were still having RFIs. So we started to work within the engineer's model, putting the content within the model that we're actually going to build with. And then those would end up being the documents that we just be submitting to the city. Our Fab Shop is large to some, small to others. 20,000 square feet interior, and then we got 10,000 out back for all the dirty stuff. again, pipe fitting and plumbing. All right, so to start this off, before we get to the demo, I think it's very good to provide just a little bit of context, just real quick. I only have 2 slides, just so you understand how we work as an organization. And then what you see over here is we are designing, right? We're getting everything ready for construction, ready to be submitted to the city. We're going through, all the questions back and forth with the engineers and owners of what they want this facility to look like and what their end product is to be. And we're thinking about, the field install. We're thinking about the fab shop. We're thinking about what the owner needs and what they desire. And we're thinking about the as-built process. So we're trying to think of bring everything, as early on as possible. So when we're starting, and when we started this in like 2019 or so, we had, spreadsheets, Excel spreadsheets, emails, Bluebeam tracking. Everybody had their own spreadsheets and everything. And we were developing this very manual kind of PDF process of what it's going to look like. And what it boiled down to was that, and this was before we had Stratus, is we would need to cut up the model and then provide enough work for a crew to work for a week. We find that that's the best way to be productive. If my crew is 3 to 4 individuals, I need to put enough material and planning in front of them for the week. As soon as it stretches on past the week, it's too many parts we're sorting through, too many materials, too many assemblies that we're sorting through, and then only planning for a couple days is just not enough, right? We don't, at the beginning of the project, it's like we want to get the meat and potatoes done. So everything we plan for is a 3-week process in the fab shop. So that gives us time for 5 days of procurement at a minimum. So that way we don't have any kind of back orders or anything. And then it gives us 2 weeks in the fab shop that we can try to find a slot to apply the manpower to get that fabrication done and then shipped and to be received by the field at a certain date. And then along with that, you have all the upstream processes. You have all the deliverables of, you got Trimble being planned. You have all your blockouts. You have your drawings being populated and everything. So within that 3-week process, there's a lot going on because we did have this a little bit further upstream. We started to populate documents. We started to do all these things maybe like 8 weeks out. But schedules are getting so compressed, and I think everybody in this meeting can speak to that there's so many changes that happen. And with these tools, with Stratus, with Revit, with the viewers of Revizto, we've realized that we can be really reactive, and then we can tighten up that schedule. So we're actually pushing as much as we can to this field received line before we actually populate deliverables, because we want to be as efficient. We want to capture as much as the true information as possible. And our goal is 85%, right? We want to get, obviously we exceed that and then sometimes we fall short. But if we can get 85% of the most perfect information, we want to get that at 3 weeks out before it needs to be on site. Because our model, right, using Stratus, I don't know if you guys are Stratus users or not, it has to be ready to assemble, fabricate, package from inside your model. You have locked yourself in to having, you have to bring yourself up, right? It levels up everybody when you get into this world, especially when you're leveraging Stratus, because the model has to be perfect. Because then it gets published, you have to kick people out of the model, and all of these things happen. You want to push this to the finish line as close as you can, and we have agreed that 3 weeks before it gets to site is what we need. And then that being said, we want it to arrive on site. We want it to move to the location that it needs to be installed. We want to get checked in. We want to make sure that any predecessors, framers, drywallers, electricians, Corey, anybody that's in the way that's supposed to be out of the way, we've had an agreement that this is our time, this is our space. Please let us enact this plan, right? And then leveraging Stratus and Revizto together, which I will highlight, you can easily have these conversations. And that's why they make such a good pairing in Ascendants. And it's really led to a lot of our success, especially for transfer of information, having great visual conversation, not just spreadsheets. So without further ado, we're going to move into the demo. I'm just going to briefly go through how we leverage Stratus, right? So we're publishing from Revit. So our model, our design, everything comes from Revit. We're an AutoCAD company and we moved to Revit, and all of our parts and pieces are MEP fabrication. There are, families that we use for equipment and such like that, but everything that talks to our tooling, everything that we fabricate is MEP fabrication. So we've invested some exhausting amount of time, getting the database up to date with the hours, installation hours, actually the right dimensions, et cetera. Ferguson pricing codes, Harrison pricing codes. It's a long journey that's not complete. And what we're doing is we're obviously designing and detailing. This is a plumbing model that I'm highlighting here. And as we're designing, right, we have to apply certain properties and parameters that we want Stratus to see for when we publish a copy of our model to Stratus. And as you can see here, what Stratus focuses on is kind of like any, constructor. You have a work package. You have assemblies. They don't call them spools for whatever reason. They call them assemblies. Revit does. That's why Stratus had to adopt it. You get package numbers, right? And we'll go into that. You get a QR code for Stratus. You'll be able to just create any labels. You'll be able to snap a picture and it'll take you right to the information that you need. A little snapshot. Any item numbers. And then the status, right? The status of everything. So as we get to maybe about DD or starting into the CD's population, we start to publish to Stratus, right? And we want to set up very specific views that we can start curating within this environment, because all this is a snapshot. We're not going to be muddying up what's going on or corrupting anything that's going on in Revit. So you're going to publish from Revit to here, all those parts and pieces as you design and iterate. And then what we like to go through is we want to make sure that all of our cost categories, all the services that we use within Revit get published here. And then that way, when we're grabbing the parts, it's educating our field, our purchasing side as to what we broke out the cost of the project and how we loaded the project for those cost codes. So that way, all our documents and reports that are populated are getting their job numbers and getting the correct cost codes and instructing everybody at what our process is as an organization. So it's not only getting us there, but it's also helping us bring up from apprentices to journeymen into the foreman and general foreman. So we start to curate here and we get these new parts and pieces. So if I'm getting this new shower valve for this project, it's RFA. I'm not going to actually get the ITM. So we will embed those cost codes and those things and the tag numbers of these items. And then we'll start to bring this environment to life. So when we turn it over to the field, they can actually just grab and go and build their packages and their assembly. So where we start with and everything that we do, what I've done is I've just broken this down into just level 2. And these are built out by areas. And I'll show you what this looks like. So we're just going to do a quick graphic override of the actual area. So it's overriding. Now this is your TAC plan, your zoning, your chunking of how the job is going to be constructed. We all have sheets and documents that are match lined and they're, a certain size, but life safety, corridors, how we're actually going to construct the project, they get broken out completely separate. So we build these regions within Stratus, which is so advantageous. And this is how the project was actually chunked out to how we had to construct. So we were only allowed, and we started here. We had to start from this side, only affect this area. Then we can affect this area. Then we can affect that area. And Stratus allows us to break that up, right? Again, it's transfer of information. It's letting know everybody, your focus is here. Stay here. Manipulate these packages and these assemblies, get these parts and pieces. As you can see, these are all the parts within each area. So if I'm going to limit to check these. Okay, this is the total amount of parts in this area that we're going to be affecting, right? So we're tracking everything at a part level from when it gets procured, when it gets built, when it gets shipped, when it gets installed, when it gets inspected. So that's what Stratus is doing for you. And what this does for us, as we're starting to build this environment, we take that into Revizto. And what we do is, and we'll go over stamps later, but what this is doing, this is a dashboard. We are grabbing that area. We're grabbing that part. We're grabbing that property, grabbing those number of parts, putting them into areas. We're talking, area level 2 medical gas. We have 15,000 parts, and we need this area signed off and ready for constructability by these dates. And this allows us to look 2 months ahead of time, so we can start guiding our BIM team to focus on these, because the construction team is getting in there hopefully around 2 months beforehand, starting to plan the project, break out the schedules, going through these things with the project managers. And then at 4 weeks, we're giving them the model. We're saying, okay, it's at a good model health that you can start your fly-throughs. So this is guiding the field team to then start to look at what we're populating, how we're breaking out their assemblies, how logistically we have set it up. Can you fit 20 footers in the area? Do you need to cut it down to 12 footers? What is your elevator access? Whatever that is, they can start to help us curate and be successful for that 2 weeks out. So remember, we talked about the field received and all that, and then that full planning, that we needed 3 weeks for the Fab Shop. Well, we need 2 weeks out from that date. And this allows us to just help guide that healthy tasking, that I go through my checklist, and there's just this long list of items we go through, make sure optimization is good, making sure that we've verified the submittal, that the parts and pieces are correct, make sure that all the components are available, making sure that through stamping, all the items that are being released within that area have been verified by the field, the equipment, we have it in hand, we've made any model updates. So Revizto really changed the game, even just in Stratus and populating it, because it helped us plan for the field just by stamping and grabbing those areas and saying, you need to get this done. So it helps the BIM team understand what the field team actually needs, and then gives us like true focus before we hand it off. So again, this is the override. They would chunk out that area. We're talking medical gas here. They would assign this into Revizto, and we would sign this off and hand it off to them so they can actually start building. So within this, when you're planning, when you're breaking out, we discussed a little bit earlier how we like to have everything at a week's worth of fabrication. Now, if my crew size is 2 individuals, I need a week's worth for 2 individuals. If we have 4 individuals, so on and so forth. Stratus, when you grab the parts, and you have ITMs, and you grab those parts, it actually can give you an estimated amount of time, schedule hours, that we are assuming that it's going to take to install this. And you can apply factors to these things. If it's a greenfield project, or if it's an existing project, you can add factors and then build upon that, their charts. So when a foreman breaks these out, they could highlight the area and they would see, yeah, there's 150 hours, 140 hours. That's 3 individuals per week. I'm going to build this as a package, right? So as they're assembling and as they're building packages, it then educates them. And then when they get it on site and give it to the field, they're going to monitor how long it took. If it was released on Monday and they were done Thursday, well, now they just educated themselves and educated us that maybe we need to ramp up or take back some of that scheduled hours, so that our foreman can feel secure with it. When the general contractors ask us, how long does this take? We can give them plus or minus 10% amount of time that we're good to go. So using data has really been a game changer for us. So when you're building your packages, that package number that we were talking about, every package name comes with the area that you're in, the system that you're in, the discipline, all of those things, and breaks it out per project. We're using the package number to be the sequence of how we're going to install. Because if you look, and let me just give you some context here. If I was to look at the packages, how do I know which one of these packages is going to be first? I mean, look at this laundry list, right? I don't know which one it is. I'd have to talk to my foreman. He'd have to remind me. He'd have to write it down. You'd have to do all these things. But what we're doing is we're using the package number to be in line with the date of time on delivery. So we would be installing the zone valve boxes first. Then we'd be populating this area, so on and so forth. We'll be moving through, and I can give this to my field team. I can allow them to provide me feedback. We don't have access to this area. Why are you planning for this? Well, why don't we have access? Well, the framers have an RFI and they can't affect that area. All right, well, we're planning out 3 weeks ahead. Now we need to adjust to another area. And I could just change that sequence, have good, healthy conversation. Along with that, we have multiple disciplines within our organization where our med gas, plumbing, solid waste event, duct work, right? So we need to be cognizant of who's all working within that area. So then we can start layering and seeing, and if you can see my screen, I hope you can, I'm not going too fast. And I can start having conversations as to who's going. We're all in the same area. Well, I'll be on this side of the corridor. You're going to be on this side of the corridor. And you can just turn on these filters. You can design any filter as you wish within Stratus and Revizto. And you can see how you sequence the project. This foreman will go first. This foreman will go second. And we have 5 foremen that we have to go through for all of our disciplines. And we can have a very visual meeting with all of, because we kind of just stick into this little silo of, I'm only responsible for this. And we're, as an organization, we're really trying to have everybody kind of just step outside and, okay, you planned for this, great. Does that work with your whole team? And then let's expand upon that. Does that work with all your trade partners? So that's our journey. That's what we're on. So all these properties, everything within Strata, right? It gets published and imported right back up to Revit. So it updates Revit with where we are. So if I'm in Revit and I'm working, and again, we're always getting changes. We're always having to be reactive, right? You can leverage these filters, right? Just like you would in Revizto and or Stratus. And I can see where the project is. And we have the graphic override that if it's red, we can't make any changes or adjustments without talking to the team, right? So this is true transfer of information. It does take publishing and importing, but we do that on a scheduled basis so we can be as healthy as possible and understanding what all of our members are doing, because we're a team, right? It's not just different departments. We're trying to talk to each other using these tools. So as it gets back into Revit, then on the scheduler for Revizto, we can get these items and information over to Revizto. Now this is the project within there. And as you can see, we've looked at just the parts and pieces, we've planned, but now you can actually plan for construction, because where you're going to be losing your hours and where you're going to be losing efficiency, you could be very efficient all the way up to this point. It's getting it on site into the right area and not having to move it 3 or 4 times, not having to stop because other trades are in the way or because we didn't plan accordingly, and get that work package up and in the air and then on to the next one. As soon as you break down that process, and that's just for us internally, as soon as that process breaks down, that's when we become the most inefficient. Because then you have loose assemblies just lying on racks all around the project, and we don't get the racks back, and then we're having to build more racks to accommodate our fabrication, and it just tumbles down. So within here, let's just get to the parts and pieces, right? If you want to look at Revizto, you guys can do all that, but I'm going to show you how it ties into Stratus. So what we do is when we build the actual packages, this is the work package, and as soon as they get this work package complete, it falls off on these viewpoints. So we're only giving the field team enough information for 2 to 3 weeks out that's what they're going to be working on, and then the documents they're going to be working with. We don't leave all the viewpoints for all of it. It just gets too muddy. So I would suggest just cleaning it up and going through here and curating these things. So for 3 weeks out, we'd like to populate these viewpoints, which can provide the document and the work package they're going to be working on, right? And then again, that's all just on a click of a button to your field team, right? All your property that you get from Stratus here available to you in Revizto. So you have your favorites that you can set up. If you're looking at only the quick properties of, what systems we're looking at, the height, the length, etc., we need that information as well. When we're specifically talking about Stratus, we've broken out this graphic override. And what this graphic override is doing, and this is The same for the very first item number, the first assembly, the first package, the first sequence. It's all the same color coding so that they tend to learn visually what they're looking at and without having to select every part piece and see what it is, right? So we're taking from Stratus how that graphic override and everything worked, right? Because everybody is so used to that within our organization now. And we're able to mimic that here within Revizto. So they can quickly see what those assemblies and then what those packages look like. Let me get back to here. These are a few templates that we use. And this is what is great about Revizto, is it's easy for a guy like me, which comes from the field, which I didn't even have a computer since 2018, right? Just started to use models. I could never use AutoCAD, right? Revit has made it very, very easy. Stratus has made it very easy for actual people that can construct to be successful. And that's what's been so great about it all. And then just the ease of setting up these little quick filters within Revizto is a life changer for us, just for specific deliverables. But the status, right? We're talking about the status of the project. Where are we at? Okay. You could hover and it'll tell you where we are. So if you're a general contractor, if you're an electrician, if you're a framer, you know that the packages that look like this with this graphic override is install in progress. If you hover, touch on your iPad, right? You know that this area has been inspected. You could break out assemblies if you have loose assemblies, or you're trying to understand, or you're trying to have a conversation with the framer, and maybe he needs to leave a little opening for you because your assembly is built a certain way. You can have that conversation and see what your foreman or general foreman had planned for you in the field, or let your foreman know that don't ever do this again. This hurts us every time, so we can all educate ourselves. And then this is just a quick package override. As you can see, it really doesn't, because we're using, I can just show you real quick. This is how we're doing it, in case anybody's interested. What is it? There we go. We're just using the wildcard. And if it ends in a 1 or a 0, all the way to 9, and that provides a graphic override. So if it's item numbers, again, assemblies, packages, we're using that wildcard with the numbers to do all that. Package, a lot of them in area A, there's only 1 or 2 packages in area A for each discipline. So you're only going to see like 2 graphic overrides. And then if the foreman in Stratus just name them all number 1 for whatever reason, like you kind of see here, you can skip blood red all over the place. So process is breaking down. But the last of the graphic overrides, which is very valuable, is the sequence, right? This is where you can see everybody together. So within Stratus, you're looking at your discipline for your view, and you're looking at multiple models, depending on if you break out your med gas and your gravity and your pressure piping and your HVAC and your mechanical dry and wet. You can start to see here what the planning is and how the project is sequenced. So what we've done is if it's been installed, it turns into this gray, right? So we can see that it's transparent. That's already installed. So now I can affect this fabrication now. Well, if I'm the duct individual and I want to know when this individual is going to be installing this so I can plan for my team because they should have been out of the area, that QR code that has been easily provided by Stratus can be provided to you in Revizto. So I don't need that foreman. I can go into his package and I can see what his planning is and make sure that it aligns with what I need or if I need to adjust. And right there, this is the required date. And I would just make sure that I gave them a week's time to get out of my way or a few days, right? So again, it's all about transfer of information. So I'm gonna jump to a new project. That was just kind of like an example. This is actually the live project, right? That project I was showing you is complete and has built upon some of the workflows, you know, because we've been with Revizto now for 3 years, Stratus for 5 years. So every project we're learning something new. We're learning how to better protect ourselves. So going over what we had talked about before, which was how we provide this to our field teams. And this has been, you know, really good for us. Let me get to this one. right? This is how we instruct our field team. Okay, not everybody has a laptop. Not everybody knows how to view a model. Not everybody has been in that 3D world before. They love the 2D documents, right? And that's just what you have to deal with. That's what you have to work with. There's nothing wrong with that. So when we're, before we were with Revizto and we had these models and such, it was just, we had to dumb it down. We had to put it in 2D, we had to provide it, try to get buy-in for the 3D world, started working on our fabrication being 3D. We got rid of all the paper within our fab shop, with the help of Stratus. And now we needed to affect the field. So getting Revizto involved, seeing how you can manipulate their tool. We already had a workflow, right? We already had these things that we were good at. It was just, we didn't have the right tools. So bringing in Revizto gave us that tool. So getting out there and instructing, we instruct our field to get to this viewpoint, and that starts them. It gives them their 2D doc, and it shows them the week's worth of work for this low pressure design that they need to install. And we instruct them to go here. The people that love 2D, this is where they live. So usually we try to team them up with somebody that can manipulate with the model, but then also 2D. They want to get any measurements, they have it here. They're not going to get lost and flown out in the middle of nowhere and trying to find, they're so afraid of pushing the wrong buttons. This here just gives you like a 3D kind of look, but it's just in a 2D form. You can't get lost. And then when they're trying to affect a very specific part, right, they just double tap on their iPad and then this is where they are. And then they double tap their finger and they know which assemblies they need to be installing or how they're sorting or how they're going from room to room and laying out from everybody. So we've gone from Revizto 3 years ago. We've gone from having to have these packets and everything, even to feed the early days of Stratus. And we'd have your ISO drawings, your plan view drawings, and your hanger drawings. We're upwards of now from, let's say 2 years ago, we had 12 iPads in the field, and we're allowing the field to dictate what they're going to use, right? Is it drawings, we're printing, or are you going to use iPads? And now we're upwards of 70, which is in 2 years. So that's how it's just catching fire, right? We can't train enough. And then the individuals that were kind of hesitant, if you provide the information this way, I'm not saying you have to do it this way, but we have found success. Give them the 3D, give them the graphic overrides, give them a 2D document. And then for the most part, by the time they're done with the project, everybody is able to manipulate the model, look at the assemblies. For whatever reason, there's always a rack somewhere in the back of the room that has loose assemblies. They're trying to find out where it goes. And you're able to select it. It's got the nomenclature from Revizto. They can look it up here, or from Stratus. They can look it up here. They know exactly where it goes. And they put it up. They don't got to go find a foreman. They don't got to go throw it away and then just don't talk about it until somebody else brings it up. You have all your transfer of information is right ahead of you. I hope I'm good on time because I wanted to go over one last thing. And that was the issue tracker. What have we dreamt about, for so long is connecting upstream to downstream, letting the Fab Shop know our successes and where we fall short, letting the BIM team know the same thing, letting the field educate us on what their choke points are, and just having that conversation. They provide these pins and they give you a stamp template here. This is just one. The BIM was incorrect. So all the efforts that we did, everything that we have done, just like mud on our face, I'm highlighting here, they drew it backwards. There was probably a change, something that flipped. The VAB was probably one instance of design and it flipped and we didn't capture it. So then the field team had to flip this around because we designed it this way. And obviously, everybody says in the BIM world, everything works. But now I'm able to bring this up. I'm able to give this to our BIM team and be like, look, I'm not coming down on you, but these are the mistakes that you have made, and let them take that upon themselves. Again, checklists, all these things, and they can educate them, right? And we're just having really good open conversation. With the Fab Shop, I used to have to go to the field, walk it, ask if there was any issues. get the information, bring it back to the Fab Shop, type up like a little, incident report, like, hey, this happened. Well, the Fab Shop is in, right? The Fab Shop can see these. These stamps are directed to me and the Fab Shop, and they can see that we didn't have these tool tees both plumb level square. So now we know that we need to go talk to the individual that's manufacturing these things and then say, hey, is the tool letting you down? What's going on? Are we not level? Do we have like a slight degree off on the setup? Like what's going on? And this individual was training another individual, and we can see that from Stratus that this person was training this person, and that there's just more education needed, right? So the true transfer of information, we also can grab trade damage, right? So what did the field act? What was their experience, right? When we're trying to have open conversations and you kind of just take care of these things in a silo somewhere, you're in the field, like I'm from the field. I don't want to have all these conversations and incident reports and all this. I just get it done, I get it fixed. But that doesn't help us at an organizational level, right? We want to know that if the trade partners we're working with are good trade partners, right? Like when they hire WD Manor, they hire a specific level of quality. And we can speak to when we go to these interviews and we're working with trade, be like, look, the last job we were on, these are all the issues that these are all the trade damage that you had done to our systems. Are you going to be better? Like, and they're like, I didn't know anything about this, And it's like you can have reports from Revizto and you just look to very specific filters. And then our field team is just applying those little tags and we can run reports and then offer it up for any organization to make themselves better. And then again, if they were using Revizto, they could offer that up to us to help us be better. So the stamps have really cut down, there's education, there's training, yes. We all have conversations. We all memorialize things in different ways. It's like, learn to use this tool in this way, it's still the same task, but just use this tool in doing it, and the transfer of information is seamless, right? So it's been very successful. We're happy with it. Where are we at on time? Do we Q&A now or keep going?
You got a couple more minutes if you wanted to jump into whatever.
Let me give the sequencing is really big. Okay, because this is where we hurt ourselves as an organization. Okay. Again, from the package number, that ties to the date as we populate the package. It puts the stamp of the incrementer of, this is package 45, this is package 46, and then you issue it off. So that gives us the actual sequence of install. So when you're looking at and you're coordinating, right? So this is this project right now. This is what they're working on. Now you can see that everything else is done in this project. They're just tying in the low pressure. All the other systems are done. Let's try to find the one that we need to have a conversation. All right, now this one. This is not that big a deal, but this system definitely should get installed earlier. I think they could work around the duct, but definitely not the med gas. So I would have a conversation. I would talk to my sanitary group, and I would look at what is their schedule. Are they ahead of me? Then I would talk to the duct individual. When are you installing this? Now I could go look at Stratus right now, but we don't have the time. And then I could talk to the med gas guy because they're all planning right now. They're only going to populate these because we put a condition in here that says only when it's in fabrication, past fabrication planning, will you highlight this graphic override. So if there's pre-planning, that's not, it's, we have tracking statuses. Let me show you those. So you have designed, signed off, assembled, packaged. If it's in any one of those, we're not looking to it within Revizto, right? Again, there's a handoff from the Fab Shop to Revizto, from the design to Revizto. When it gets to Revizto, when it gets issued for Fab, again, that's that 3-week look ahead, that time that we give our Fab Shop. That's the only time that I want to see any kind of planning, because then it just it's too visual for everybody. There's just too much going on to absorb. And then again, if anything is already complete and installed, it kind of just turns in this transparent gray. So this has been good for us because all too often, we have our own foreman kind of planning their own ways, and we all know how difficult schedules are. And we're trying to interpret an interpretation of a schedule. It's very difficult these days. We just some generals are very good at providing us schedules, and trade partners are good about keeping to those. And sometimes it's just never going to happen. So we get lost in our planning and our adjustments and our being reactive, and we end up hurting ourselves, putting up a rack of pipe when good and well we know that there's soil waste and vent and ductwork that needs to go above it, and we've had to cut it down on this project that knows these tools, that have these tools available to them. We have done that to ourselves. So this isn't going to fix, everything for you, but how many times did we capture that, right? And that's what we're shooting for. It's so unfortunate. It's construction; these things happen. But the more we can mitigate those things with tying in Stratus and Revizto, it's been a pretty exciting journey. We're happy the path that we're on, and we'll give it back to you guys.
Awesome. Thanks, Adrian. Yeah, this is really fantastic use of property data that is, available, right?
Mhm.
Taking it to the level where you guys are getting to actual sequencing and being able to review that is, to me is wildly impressive. So thank you for sharing this with everybody. We're going to jump into Q&A. We have a few, so if you guys have questions, make sure you get them in there. We got about 12 minutes left in the webinar, but I'd like to get in as many questions as we possibly can, and I'm just going to go from the top down. So first question is, as a subcontractor, oh, did you have
Corey, can
something
I,
to say?
yeah, can I interrupt you for a second? Adrian, if you go back to the slide, I just want to send the last poll so people can participate,
Oh,
and we would jump immediately to Q&A.
that's right. I forgot there was another one of these.
If you go to the next one, perfect. Awesome. So we just want to know if you guys want to learn more about Revizto, Stratus, WD Manor. Not at this time. You can select multiple. But yeah, so once you select your answer, we can move on to the Q&A, Corey. So we're good.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Sure. I'll let you run that stuff in the background, and then I'll
Mhm.
just start with the question. So, first question, I believe, is to Adrian. Maybe these are all towards Adrian, but as a subcontractor, have you done any work with OFCI, CFCI vendors as part of your Stratus Revista workflows?
No.
No. So I don't need to ask the second part of that question. Sorry, Jackson. Um, next question, can you go deeper into the process of defining cost codes?
Yeah, sure. We want to know as an organization, how well we're doing. The best way to do that, and what we had found, let me get to actual Reddit here, is by system. Okay, so we break down everything by the actual system and by the palette that we draw with, so they kind of went hand in hand. When it gets to equipment, plumbing equipment is broken out separate specialties. Mechanical equipment, those are broken out. We do Trimble of all of our BIM content. So we have learned that the Trimble process to kind of just be an overall, we're more efficient because we're so many disciplines. We put we can't just say, oh, it's just heating hot water. This is hot water. No, we can't do that. We got to get all the Trimble. We got to get all the embeds. If we're going to drill, we're going to get all the drilling done at one time. So we capture that cost on its own, which is just the Trimble cost code. Other than that, any install from the hangers of the discipline goes to the actual discipline. And it's cut and dry as that. So that way you can see the med gas did this well. We had hangers and we had install. The domestic water did this well or not so well, and we can break that out. And then those are all loaded into the project that way so that we can apply those in our time. I hope that answers your question.
You're on mute, Corey.
Yeah, I
And then
realized that.
and then the filters, again, I'm looking for those palettes that we're drawing with. I apply it to the filter, to the cost category, and that puts it here within Stratus. That's the end of that, I guess, that cycle.
All right. Have you looked into 4D simulation capabilities of Stratus?
The 40, no.
No. Okay. Nathan, can you touch on that quickly? What if there is the 4D simulation capabilities?
Uh, I think there might be a typo. 2D and 3D, we have kind of like those plan views that Adrian was showing. I don't know if we have, I don't think we have 4D capabilities for Stratus right now.
Yeah, we've done 2D capabilities within Stratus. One of our choke points, Indian reservations, stuff like that, we don't have internet connectivity. So we had to find other ways, Bluebeam sessions, whatever, or Bluebeam projects to upload documents and then kind of leverage kind of snapshots and stuff like that. So having Revizto able to download the content and have it, on your app downloaded, not using internet connectivity, we've chosen to go that path for our workflow. I know we've had it here in Stratus on certain projects, but we've moved everything over into that environment. It's our integrated hub is Revizto. We want to visualize everything in the field through Revizto. That's just what we've chosen.
Awesome. Are you guys using AR technology in the field?
Yes. So it's not something that that's heavily used. We're gut checking. We're educating, right? We're having conversations of clashing. We're highlighting it with the field. You have to set up your AR filters, you have to have a wall with drywall or else it doesn't work unless you have a concrete wall. So you have to ask for very specific things for it to work in the field. But yes, we are using the AR just to do a quick gut check and have some good clashing issues because not everybody models to the level that we do.
Derek would like to say that this was excellent to you specifically, Adrian, and it's full of incredible information.
Nope.
The question posed is, are you creating all the assemblies on the Stratus end or round tripping them back into Revit environment and slash vice versa?
Again, we're in the engineer's model. We don't want to bloat it. And there's been so many changes that happen during construction process. We don't like to separate the model. So we're very careful with that, right? If we do have to end up splitting at a certain time. But if there's still design changes, we keep within the engineer's model and still keep that connectivity. So that being said, we still just publish everything to Stratus and assemble everything outside of that model so we don't bloat it. No tremble points, nothing. We handle that all outside, just for those reasons. I have assembled before, of course, in Revit with Stratus. It all works. Everything works. There's nothing wrong with it. But we just choose not to have that information. It corrupts tagging and such for the engineers. We just don't want to do that. We just keep it separate.
Awesome. I'll take the next question. Is there any way to connect Revizto API, Stratus API to show the element statuses live? Or is daily sync between Revizto and Stratus? Currently, it is not possible to link our API directly with Stratus. It is something that we absolutely 100% would love to work towards, but right now it doesn't. So the daily sync of information, you could do it multiple times a day, I guess, but up to Stratus, back down from Stratus into Revit, Revit to Revizto is the current workflow to update these statuses in Revizto.
That's the way we do it.
Tara asks, how do you turn on category filters on Stratus and input cost codes?
Sure. Let me just show you what that looks like. Cost categories in your admin. You need to write filters. Again, we use the palette as service discipline, so we use filters here. Okay, so our chilled water. We're looking for these, right? This is everything that ties into that cost category. So then when you get in the cost category section of Stratus, you will create a new cost category with the filter that you have created, apply the code, and then that is available to you. So when you import those parts from Revit and they come through, they get captured through that filter, and then you can have them available here. If you do not have that filter built, it will not take, right? So when you're missing, like I got two parts that aren't correct. So I can't create the filter and then it all of a sudden be ready. It has to be on the publish import part of the process. So create your filters, go through all of that, create your cost codes, then import everything from Stratus up to Revit and then publish back. And then you can have that show you the result, but it doesn't do it automatically. It has to be import publish.
Nathan, the next question is for you. Is there a way to speed up the process of uploading a model to Stratus, or a way to
Yeah,
optimize it?
yeah, probably optimizing is the better word. From Revit, what's in that view is going to get published up. So there's certain things that Stratus doesn't need to have in order to function perfectly. So turning off things like your insulation or center lines or content that's not going to be fabricated within Stratus, that's going to speed up that publish process. Also, making sure that family complexity is something that is looked at. So looking at your database and how things are kind of put together. If there's unnecessary information on these parts, or if there's third party software that has added more parameters to those parts, removing the unnecessary parameters that don't need to come in, those types of things will speed up the publish process.
Yeah, that was one thing that hurt us a lot when we started. The evolved parameters, we didn't really understand what we were doing when we were creating a database and workflows, and it was tying in 400 parameters to every part and piece. So it was just
Yeah.
taking an exhausting amount of time. So really understanding your database, understanding what those parts and pieces are, cleaning up your views, model health, all these things really help.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, so can you briefly, Adrian, can you briefly describe what the process looks like in actually determining the sequence and at what point in time?
Sure. So we're planning, we bring up our dashboards, right? We look at the dates and these dashboards, and we're looking here, right? This is all the models. This is the dates. You can see how they're all going to align and arrive on site at what specific time. And the best way that we've learned is through having a conversation with the plumbing, right? Let them have conversations, very visual, while the mechanical team is in the room, right? So we start to go through it. And this is early on, right? This is early on before we're releasing and everything. And we start to highlight and show, I don't know, this, as soon as you get online, it slows things down, but we'll try it. But what we'll do is we will go over, like, this is my planning for area A, like we were talking about. This is area A. I'm going to work with this package, this package, this package, because that's what goes in flow of how I need to install and test. And then they're like, okay, and they know what their planning is, right? You're all in the same room. We actually have a sequencing meeting, right? And it's once a week. We go over what our planning is for the next 3 weeks. But what we've done is we added this to the last couple projects. So that way, so we could just turn on a couple, get into gravity. And if their sequencer is aligned, which we've had some issues with the foreman's not, they built a package in the wrong kind of sequence and they didn't change. All you have to do is change the sequence. If your intent is to have this one first, this one second, this one third, and then it changes because things change, you need to get back in there, quick adjustment, change those sequences, and then this will come over correctly. And then we can see where the overlap is here. And you can only do this by model, right? So we can do this just for the plumbing model and mechanical, but then that's how we get into the overall kind of quick look through Stratus, right? And then we agree that it's healthy because we all are competent individuals. But then the finite is a week. We want to be a week ahead of fabrication. So it's in the second week before it actually gets into fab. You want to look at that last area that you're going to affect and see if there needs to be a couple day adjustment. And this would be a good example here. I'd be like, okay, we're working in this area for 2 weeks out. Are we still tracking? Is your team falling short? Do you need to be more aggressive, right? All these things, we need to be reactive. So we'd get in here, they would know their dates, and they're looking at it on their own computer. But again, if they're missing from the meeting, because we've had that before, I can verify here. And let's just do it real quick. We're gonna go to the package. We're gonna see what their planning is. So this doesn't work. I mean, let's go talk to them. All right, 5:13. Okay, so we're there. So they need to get this installed at 5:13. I'm hoping that the duck guy is after 5:13. Let's go look. 6:16. Okay, so we're good. And then let's look at this team. Now we can just pick that ductwork up and put it over the rack. It's not that big of a deal. It's not like it really impedes on their workflow a whole lot, but hopefully they're planning. So it looks like the soil waste and vent and the rack was agreed upon that they're going to go after each other. And I think the duct guy probably just said we can get above it and tie into that VAV. And that's the conversations you can have. Be like, no, we can get in there. We can pop that in. It's not a big deal. So I hope they had that. You know, this is definitely going to get installed first. This is installed last. I think that's healthy. I would call that a success. But that's exactly what we would do. We would start out and before we releasing what our planning is in Stratus, go through that sequencer just like we did. Everybody's in the meeting. Everybody's agreeing like, yeah, no, that's a pretty good plan. It gets into procurement, gets into the Fab Shop's hands. The week before, it gets into Fab, right? That week prior. Are we still tracking? Are we still good? Do we need to change this optimization anyway, which happens quite a bit? We just change the sequence and then we let the Fab Shop know, make sure they can accommodate the adjustments. And then we get it into Fab and then get it on site on that field receive date. Very quick meeting, believe it or not. If you think about, so we are 250 to 300 individuals in our organization. We have 6 greenfield projects that are running this process. The rest is, just maintenance and small projects. And your work packages on these buildings, they could be from 200 square feet, 200,000 square feet to 500,000 square feet. The amount of crews that you have is really only 2 or 3 crews per foreman. So you're only planning for 2 or 3 packages. And when you break it down and eat the elephant, small bites at a time like that, those conversations come easier and easier. It was very difficult at first to have them understand the sequencing and how it ties into your date. You don't get the dates in Revizto. But after the first 3 weeks of the project kickoff, we were in full swing, and it's been quite a success in the last 2 projects.
Awesome. Well, we're 5 minutes over, and I want to be conscious of everybody else's time. I know there's a few more questions here. I think we can probably blast through them pretty quick. If you guys are able to hang out for a few more minutes.
Yeah, we're here.
Okay. So the next question would be how are you setting up the Stratus schedules into your Revizto dashboards? If you can just touch on that really quick.
Yes.
What data are you using to set up your dashboards?
Yes. Let's just do that real quick. So in your, we created a type. Okay. That type. Where is it at? There it is. Stratus. Okay. So we created the types and they're Stratus types. And when we're grabbing the area and we're grabbing the parts, we're putting a deadline to it. So this deadline was January 23rd. So we needed to put a deadline. And this is let me go to my slides. You could probably remember. So this is the deadline 6 weeks out. So that way we could start the whole process of curating and getting it done. So we're doing that pull plan by the deadline, by the type of stamp. Then we go through each one of these. All right, so this is med gas. This one was the 16th of December. This one was the 14th of November. So all of those, right? All of those will populate the list here. So we want them to grab as soon as we have parts available to them, and we should by 2 months out, right? That's our goal, is 2 months out to have the foreman in there and the superintendent start to build the schedules. As soon as you put the deadlines of when you need that fabrication to be on site, and then you do your pull back for that 6 weeks. That gives us this workflow. So this is actually like a longer list, and I can show you a longer list here of what it looks like when you're actually in the middle of a project. So here. Oh yeah, no, this is scamming. Yeah, let me go here. I'll show you what it looks like when it's all of them. So this is it, right? These are all the stamps that we have per discipline, per area that we need, because you don't want to release the whole floor. It's too overwhelming. So each foreman, we have each detailer, our BIM department's 11 individuals. So they chunk out, I need this area done. I need this area done by discipline, right? Because I need to affect all this area at once. And that helps them from the schedule build and helps guide us in here to know what needs to be affected. We're hopefully going to start in the way the building is constructed, basement up. And then we start knocking each one of those areas off, getting it ready for construction by the time that they have dictated here on the deadline. I hope that explains it. It's all driven by the deadline, all by our work process of 6 weeks that we like to hold ourselves to. It goes through the checklist process, goes through the fly-through process, goes through the curating, assembling, all that stuff, and then gets released. So.
Awesome. I think I can handle the next question. How are changes made on site, and how do you reflect them back to the digital model? I'm going to make an assumption here that you guys are using the link, the Stratus link, to go back to the internet to update it in Stratus. And then the next time you pull that information down from Stratus into Revit, it lives there. And then when you publish to Revizto, it's updated there. Is that correct?
Exactly right. So we want to walk that package with that foreman or lead guy in the field. What went well? What didn't go well? QA, QC. After that QA, QC process, we hit the button and we transfer it over to field installed. And then we know within our organization that the person that did the planning learned as much as they can, and it's to quality. And then that's our QA, QC that we offer up to the general contractor.
Awesome. So two more questions, real quick. So how do you create the non-rectangular scope boxes in Revit for area definitions in Stratus?
So if you will build a floor first, and then you can put your walls up and then create the areas. But
And
you
that's
got the
just
spaces. You have to build space. So do your floor, right? And that's in our model. We'll do the floor, makes the weird shapes for our chunking and zoning. And then we put the walls up to the height that we need that scope box, basically. So the space to be, and then we make the space out of it. And then that gets
awesome.
into Stratus.
Awesome. Last question. And this might be for Nathan. How do you turn on the level parameter in the assembly dashboard and input the data?
All of the parts that are brought into Stratus are modeled on a level in Revit, and so that part information is contained in those parts. So if all of that assembly lives on level 1, then that answer would be the same for all of those parts, and that would be a parameter that you could put on a dashboard where all of the cumulative part data for that assembly would then reflect level 1. So it just lives on the part.
Yeah, I would offer up not to do that, because our detailers are very, they're detail oriented, but when you draw in 3D, the levels don't always go with it. So then we always have parts that are kind of floating around everywhere. And we do go through and curate and try to adjust them. But if you create these areas, it's like a filter, and those parts go through that filter and it assigns them to the areas. So if that area is level 1, level 2, level 3, no matter what level you incorrectly draw it on accident, and you haven't curated it, it always captures it in that net, and you'll never have any problems. We've tried and exhausted so many workflows to make sure everything is on the right level, and it's a task in itself. But Stratus has fixed that for us by being able to create these areas, and it always catches it. And that's the parameter that ties to our parts, which ties to our assemblies, which ties to our packets. So if anybody's figured out how to always have the right part on the right level, I wish they'd just let us know. So contact WD Manor and tell us.
Yeah, just call the front office. You'll
Yeah,
talk directly to Adrian after
yeah.
that.
Ask Adrian, please help
Yeah,
us.
awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
so if you want to jump into the presentation, I know there's just a couple more slides and we'll close out. I do want to thank everybody for hanging out. Most of you guys did, so thank you very much. If you would like to contact any of us, here's the information available, LinkedIn, and also with email. Um, yeah, your project made right. That's our motto, and our new kind of guiding light over here at Revizto. I'm pretty sure we can extend that over to Stratus as well because they're helping us get the right information to the right people when we need it to get there.
Yeah.
And I think that's it. Yeah. So again, thank you everybody. We appreciate your time today. And yeah, hopefully we talk to y'all soon.
Thanks, everybody.